times log p. Right, that's for multiplication. And even this, there's a few steps, right? You have to first of all multiply the two residues, and then you have to divide by p and take the remainder. And if you look in section 2, you'll see some explanation of why that takes the same time as multiplying numbers of that size, which is log p, log p. And then for division in FP, you might need to do some divisions. Well, that's going to be, there are some fancy algorithms for computing the extended Euclidean algorithm, which is what division is in FP, and you get log p squared. Okay, so there is an awful lot of algorithms going on in the background here, which I don't really want to get into, but you can read about them in section 2. And the point is that all of these are simply, they're basically linear in log p. Log p to the 1 plus epsilon is more than enough to cover that. Okay, so where was step 2? Yeah, to calculate this guy. Now if I just use this bound, the number of operations in k, then I get step 2 cost is O of g to the omega, because the matrices are g times g, log p to the 1 plus epsilon. Okay, so we've got this term coming from the coming from step 2, and we have this term coming from step 1. So as I said before, this is roughly linear in P. This one, I mean, barely depends on P at all. I guess the power of G here is a bit worse. But certainly if P is much larger than G, which is the case I mainly care about, then we're going to spend all our time in this step here computing this big power of F. It's not that surprising. And we'll spend almost no time doing the characteristic polynomial. But if you did try to apply this algorithm when P is very small, if P is 3, for example, to a large genus curve over F3, then you would actually spend a lot of your time in this characteristic polynomial step. Okay, but I don't really care about that regime very much. Okay. So one thing you can see from all this is that these bounds are all polynomial in G, which is what I promised we would do, right? Remember, the enumeration algorithm is exponential in G, and this is polynomial in G. And we've managed to compute the L polynomial. We've managed to compute the L polynomial modulo P. So this algorithm is, in some ways, is genuinely more powerful than the enumeration algorithm, but we're only getting the L polynomial modulo P, not in ZT. Okay. Okay. So guys, that is what I wanted to talk about in section 4. Now I've sort of got 9 minutes. Do I have 9 minutes, Bjorn? Or should I stop here? Because I could start a little bit on section 5. Should I go on, or should we, if the mic works?
You could take I mean, if you want to have time for questions, then probably stop around 4 or 5 minutes from now.
Okay, let's take a vote. Should I start on section 5, or should we call it a day? Section 5. Whew! All right. Should I lecture for another 3 hours? Yeah! Okay, let's just take a...
understand that this is not a democracy.
This is not a democracy. So I'm in a temporary position of power.
There are some of us here who have more power than others.
Yeah, that's right. You know, Bjorn, I have to... I hope we have a recording of you saying this is not a democracy, because I've been having a lot of interesting conversations with various US citizens about that question. Okay. All right, section 5. Okay, section 5, recurrences for polynomial powers. So we'll just have a little peek at this. Okay, so let me remind you what our situation is. So we have our polynomial f, which I'm going to write f0 plus f1x. Now I'm going to introduce this symbol d for the degree, just because I'm going to be sick of writing 2g plus 2 everywhere. Okay, so from now on that's what d is. Okay, and this is in fpx. And I'm going to write h. H is now going to be called f to the m. So m is my notation for p minus 1 over 2, because I'm sick of writing p minus 1 over 2 all the time. Okay, and remember what our goal is. Our goal is to compute certain coefficients of h. Okay, we've got this big polynomial, we only want a few coefficients. And what I want to do in this section is develop some recurrences for the coefficients of h. And then we're going to use these recurrences to throw some interesting algorithms at the problem of computing these coefficients. Now, I'm also going to have to make an assumption here, which is slightly annoying. I'm going to assume that the constant term is not 0. Okay, that's the first time I've had to mention this annoying condition. You'll see in a few moments, or maybe tomorrow morning, why I need this condition. You don't really need it, and I explained somewhere in the notes how you can get around it, but it just makes life so much easier, so I've decided for this course just to assume this. Okay. Now, I'm going to introduce a certain differential operator. So del is going to be x times d dx. So this is a degree preserving differential operator, right? So if I differentiate x to the k, I get k times x to the k. And I am going to apply it to f to the m, right, which is h. And I'm going to do a little bit of first year calculus, freshman calculus. That's the phrase, isn't it? Freshman calculus. I knew I'd come up with it. M times del f times f to the m minus 1. Now these are just formal derivatives, right? We're just doing formal derivatives of polynomials. There's no actual calculus here. And then I'm going to multiply both sides by f. And here's what I get. F times del h, right, that's h, is going to be m times del f times h. Okay, this is very, very important. This is a differential equation satisfied by h. This is a dE satisfied by h. So we're thinking here of f as being fixed and m is fixed, and this is some equation satisfied by h. And I think I'll just write down one more line. So what you can do in this equation is you can equate coefficients on both sides. Right, you can look what's the coefficient of x to the k on the left and x to the k on the right, and you can do a little bit of algebra. So there's a problem in the notes that asks you to do this. And here's what you get. You get a formula for h sub k, the kth coefficient of h, in terms of the previous d coefficients. So here's the formula. So there's a sum of some terms, half j minus k, fj, h, k minus j. And this is all happening, of course, modulo p. So by the way, this half is really p plus 1 over 2, right? It's coming from this m, but I'm only looking at it mod p, so I just get a half. So what this formula is doing is it's expressing hk in terms of as a linear combination of the previous d values, the previous d coefficients. But the coefficients here actually depend on k. So it's a bit like, you know, the Fibonacci sequence, right, where each one is a sum of the previous two, but there the coefficients are constant. Here the coefficients depend on k. Okay? And here you can see why I wanted f0 not to be 0. Okay, I can't divide by f0. And this only works when k is not 0 mod p. Okay, if k is 0 mod p, we have a problem. So I think I will stop there, and I will talk more about this tomorrow, and we'll figure out, I mean, really this is really the serious problem that we have to deal with. Okay, and I'll talk about a few issues to do with this and how we get around it. All right, so questions? Got a minute or two.
Yeah, any questions? Well, I guess we can still thank them. So, yeah.
Thank you.